Y'all, Jones Dairy Farm, located in Fort Atkinson, is a standout. They do premium meat manufacturing, making dry-aged bacon, naturally smoked hams and Canadian bacon, all-natural sausage, and a new no antibiotics ever chicken and pork meatballs. It's a 7th-generation family-owned and operated farm who's been making breakfast better since 1889. Learn more at jonesdairyfarm.com. That's jonesdairyfarm.com. Madison Public Library connects us to the world, to information, and to each other. September is Library Card Sign-Up Month, so it's the perfect time to get your very own Madison Public Library card. Already have a card? You can renew it this month and visit the library website for a list of 30 things you can do with your Madison Library card, one for every day of September. Visit madpl.org or stop into any Madison Public Library to get started. Have you wondered recently whether you're on track for retirement or other financial goals? Like, are your kids set up for financial success? Ty Nafziger from Benjamin F. Edwards & Company is hosting a 30-minute seminar to help you answer these questions and more. Ty's goal is to help families feel confident in their financial plan. So join Ty at the seminar on September 11th at 2 p.m. at the Monona Library in the Municipal Room downstairs. And kids are welcome. Benjamin F. Edwards & Company is a member SIPC. Today on CityCast Madison. The Madison Museum of Contemporary Art is in a moment of transformation. Starting this month, the art museum located on State Street, easily recognized for its massive transparent glass facade, is welcoming people in for an even closer look. MMoCA's newest exhibit, running through September, is called Snapshots, and it's a call to the community to come and watch behind-the-scenes actions of MMoCA staff photographing some of their largest and rarely exhibited artwork. And it's all in the name of transparency. To learn about this exhibit and why MMoCA is centering transparency, we sat down with the museum's new director, Paul Baker Prindle. It's Monday, September 9th. I'm Bianca Martin, and here's what Madison's talking about. Hi, Paul.
Hi, Bianca. How are you?
I'm doing super freaking good. I'm so excited to meet you. This is an exciting conversation. So first of all, I just want to say welcome home to Madison in this new leadership role.
Thank you very much. It's good to be back, and I'm settling in more and more.
And you're starting off with a bang. You have a new exhibit titled Snapshots that offers folks a behind-the-scenes look as y'all take photos of some of your museum's largest and rarely exhibited artwork. So where did the idea come from for this exhibit?
Well, for me, the project really came about out of conversations that I started having with the team and with our stakeholders immediately. And these conversations are really about nurturing a stronger sense of community and understanding the ways in which our different stakeholders have a stake in what this museum is about and what we do and what we collect and what we exhibit. And so in terms of my professional practice, I'm a really big fan of exploring ways to operationalize theory. And I think one of the things that's so fascinating in our area of practice right now in museum practice is there's been a lot of theoretical developments in how museums should operate, how they should behave, who they should work with. And there hasn't been, I think, a similar proliferation of, how do we actually do that? You know, I go back to that kind of a grandma's expression of the devil is in the details. And to me, we can talk all day about being welcoming and inclusive and hospitable and diverse, but it's about actually doing it. And so this is really the opportunity to welcome people into a workflow that is usually opaque and happens behind the doors. And so I sense your next question might be, exactly what is it?
Yeah.
So what what we're doing, it actually is feeding a couple birds with one scone. I don't know the collection very well. And actually, a lot of people here don't. And a lot of folks in our stakeholdership and in our community don't know the collection. And there are some just realities that part of taking care of objects. We need to photograph them regularly. We need to do something called condition reporting. And from a scholarly sense, we need to look at things with the benefit of new scholarship and ideas that are floating around. So this is a way for us at the museum staff, to get to know the objects by pulling objects out of our vault that haven't been photographed or looked at in a long time, and putting them in a gallery where we will photograph them on Thursdays and Fridays, every Thursday and Friday of September. And we're inviting our visitors to just drop in whenever they want during open hours and see what we're up to. And depending on who's in the gallery, it might be a curator, it might be a docent, it might be an attendant, a photographer, it could be anyone. Have a conversation about what we're looking at and do that work of adventurous learning together. Mm-hmm. That's really what this project is about.
I love it. And I know part of the project is about transparency. And out of full transparency, you and I are just meeting, but I was a MMoCA gallery attendant in 2012 and 2013. So I mopped those floors and got a good sense of, guarded artwork from damage. But I also used to live on West Gorham, which is like literally 2 blocks away from the museum. And I once got to take something home from the vault that was like the artist didn't want it anymore. And it was probably 6 foot tall photographic print of a cityscape. And I walked it across to my little college apartment. And I was so proud. So I know that vault is extensive.
It's true. Yeah, it's full. And what you're mentioning kind of touches on an issue that museums across the country are really dealing with, is that our vaults are full of work. And there's this question of, we can only do a couple exhibitions a year. Exhibitions are very expensive. They take a long time to develop. And so what are other ways that we can share what's in the collection outside of that kind of very formal, expensive, labor-intensive exhibition project? And this is, again, a way of doing that.
And behind closed doors.
Behind closed doors. I mean, so much of what happens in art museums is opaque to everybody else. And I don't really think that's necessarily a useful division.
Yeah. And so has MMoCA ever done anything like this before? Do you know, like opening up its documentation process like this to the public?
To my knowledge, no. I've been around the museum off and on for 25 years, and I don't remember ever doing anything like this. And it's just one of a couple things we're trying out right now that I think haven't been done in a while.
Well, I love it. So I think I have a sense, at least in part, one of the motivations behind this exhibit to bring transparency to MMoCA's work, and I think we will have to discuss it here. But can you share why put a focus on transparency? Is it just, as you were mentioning, this isn't something that people typically get, or is there something more there?
I mean, I think the biggest motivator for me is that I love museums. And I think museums are, generally speaking, at a crossroads as reproduced digital images of art are increasingly replacing the in-person experience. And I think particularly during the pandemic, it became very clear to me just how important in-person real-life experiences of beautiful or thought-provoking or ugly or monstrous things to look at are. I mean, my visual sense is one of my favorite senses. And I really missed out. I'm a quite promiscuous looker. I love to look at beautiful things. I look at, the awesome, the formidable. I'm always looking at things. And we had such a limited visual field when we were all stuck at home. And so I think that really came. And while we all became, I think, far more involved with our phones and Instagram, despite the increase in digital content, I don't feel more satisfied. I ended up feeling less satisfied. And I think there's something truly magical about museums. So I think at the same time that there are generational shifts in how we socialize, what our expectations are for public space. And so there's really this kind of incredible moment of change that I think one of the strategies for keeping museums available, I guess, it's a personal drive. Like, I want museums to be available to future generations because I think they're important, if not also flawed. And so this is like this really important opportunity.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so real getting into a physical space. I am training my body right now to be in my body. To all you guys who just exercise every day, good for you. Keep it up. But I'm doing my work to just get out of my phone and be present in the world. I put my feet on grass this morning. And I'll say working at MMoCA is really one of the more special experiences I've ever had. For a year, I got to see multiple different exhibits and be in the galleries as they transition and spent hours in there. And man, I mean, there's something about seeing something in person in 3D and also seeing someone's vision. There's different ways that the galleries are built to create an experience and different ways that the artist uses the built space and whatever their medium is to have an effect that you just can't really get on your phone. So I appreciate that point so much.
Thanks for saying that. I always like hearing how other people feel about museums. And I think that what you're talking about also points to this additional reality that, the meaning of an object, the meaning of the accumulation of objects in an exhibition is always contingent. It's always being renegotiated. Even myself as an artist, what I felt something meant when I made it doesn't always mean it's always going to mean that. It might mean many things over its lifetime. And I think similarly, the viewer is also constructing the meaning of something when they look at it. And looking at something alone in a big, giant gallery versus looking at something with 300 other people in the gallery is very different than, I have friends who have artwork in their little guest bathrooms. That's a different experience. Or sitting in a house of worship and looking at art, or in a castle, or any number of places. Who and where we look at something means something, just like looking at art on a phone means something different. Mm-hmm. And I think we have incredibly powerful brains and spirits. And my position is like, why not wring every last bit of possibility out of these bodies that we have use of to enjoy what we can look at. I think that's a great part about working at a museum is you can be part of that.
Ugh, it's just incredible. Honestly, I miss it sometimes. It's meditative, but I love this job. I'll come back.
Hi, this is David, the CEO of CityCast. Do you ever find yourself holding back on travel because you're afraid of a language gap? Well, mind the gap no longer, as long as you have Babbel. Babbel is the science-backed language learning app. Its 10 minutes lessons are quick and handcrafted to get you talking your new language in 3 weeks. So I was reminded in the Olympics how much I love French. I had spoken French as a kid, but it has deteriorated to nothing. But I thought I would love to take a trip back to France with my girlfriend, but I'm embarrassed because my French is at 0. And I thought, why not get on Babbel and revive my French? And it's been a joy for the past few weeks. I'd forgotten everything. I'd forgotten plurals. I'd forgotten articles, vocabulary. Mostly I'd just forgotten how to speak and how to listen. And Babbel has me back on track with lots of speaking and lots of listening, because that's how you get better at a language. So I've been working on time, for example, and there's this way in French where when you say 2:45, you don't say 2:45, you say 3 o'clock minus 15. So, je rentre à 3h moins le quart. I'm coming back at 2:45. Anyway, it's so much fun to speak. And don't take my word for it. There's studies from Yale, from Michigan State University that prove that Babbel works. So here's a special limited time deal for CityCast listeners. Right now, get up to 60% off your Babbel subscription, but only for our listeners at babbel.com/citycast. Get up to 60% off at babbel.com/citycast. Spelled BABBEL.com/citycast. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Y'all, Comic-Con is back in Madison. Meet your favorite celebs and see all the cool artists and vendors at Madison Comic Expo on September 14th and 15th at the Alliant Energy Center. Meet the voice of SpongeBob, Tom Kenny, as well as Rachel Lee Cook, Will Friedle, Grace Van Dien, some Power Rangers, and over a dozen voice actors from your favorite cartoons and anime. Don't miss the costume contest on Saturday and Sunday. Buy your tickets now at MadisonComicExpo.com. I know that you've done art in Madison, or you've worked in art galleries in Madison before, and coming back to this institution, like I saw you quoted saying, like, this is a moment to step up. MMoCA means so much to Madison, and it's such a towering institution. It's certainly felt like a privilege and honor to work there. And I think you're well aware, you stepped into this role at a time when the museum has faced some major backlash from the community over something that happened, a couple years ago, back in 2022, the triennial. And, a well-loved community leader and artist, Leleda G., who's a Black woman, experienced showcasing her art at MMoCA. And it was like her moment. This is my moment to be in this, chapel of a place. And the reports were kind of nightmarish. At least the reports I read, it sounded like she was aggressively kept from coming into the building to get to her art, and that employee was fired. And then later her artwork was defaced, and maybe requests were made for the person who was defacing it, to be able to take the art home. It sounds as bad as it could get. Like, it was bad. And it's so sad to see that and hear that from a place that I still love and honor and know is such a resource and amazing place in Madison. But that was a bad time. And so people did question the museum's leadership and commitment to diversity and inclusion around that happening, going so far as to make allegations of racism. So, I wonder if you have any things to say about that. Obviously, you're stepping into this role and putting forward, one of your first things is an effort to bring transparency to the museum. So do you have any words about that and, how you're trying to move forward?
So first, I would just clarify that the artist was not kept from entering the building by a museum staff person.
It was an Overture staff?
Yeah, it was an Overture Center person. And we're not the Overture Center, right?
Right.
We're Madison Museum of Contemporary Art. However, Leleda was a guest in our building. She was an artist we were showing. And if someone was at my house and my neighbor insulted them, I would have something to say about that. I mean, it wouldn't happen in my house. But, it did. And I think it caused Leleda a lot of harm, and it caused our community a lot of harm. For me, my takeaway, even when you're trying to do something right, you can still screw up. Even in those circumstances, you don't lean on we were trying to do something right. You say we screwed up. And I think the museum did screw up on a couple important points. I also think that the way you move forward, I met Leleda sort of serendipitously. I really enjoyed talking with her. I hope to have some sort of friendship of some sort with her. I think she's great. We had some good laughs together.
She's wonderful.
Yeah. But I think it also hurt additional people. But I think the opportunity here is to be reflective, to contemplate where things went wrong, and to bring greater intention to how you move forward. It's fascinating to me that this was all happening in the context of an exhibition that was the expression of the museum's efforts to actually call attention to the work of Black women. It was the first triennial in the history of the triennial to be completely restricted just to women of color. I think there was a little bit of hubris in that project that got in the way. I think that as long as I've been around Madison has really struggled to address particularly, I think, institutionalized and systemic racism in meaningful ways. I find that my observation is that very often BIPOC communities are left holding the bag when it comes to doing the work, which is puzzling considering it's a white majority city. There's just more white folks who could be doing the work. I think moving forward for the museum, it's about the basics that we've all friggin' known since childhood. Treat other people as you would have them treat you. Think before you speak. Maybe don't speak. if it's not your turn. Listen better. I think those are things that work in all contexts. And I think particularly in museums, as museums also have to deal with the historical fact that museums are grounded in colonial settler imperialism. That's how museums started.
I saw you quoted saying, we have to reckon with the museum was birthed out of the empire.
Yeah, 100%. But I also don't think that it has to be. I don't think we have to follow in that model. Just like I'm a married gay man, and marriage certainly started in the West as a tool to control women. We don't have to continue having marriages like that, just like any other sort of structure, social structure. We can reinvent them. We can throw them away. We can revise them. We can invite new people to participate in them. There's all sorts of opportunity. And I think the museum landscape is really ripe right now in that there's so much possibility for doing all of those, getting rid of them, getting more of them, revising them. The opportunities are myriad. And I think for us and this project, this snapshot project, the transparency, it's about helping people better understand how we operate so that they can find ways to plug in where they want to plug in. It's totally cool if you're not into museums, if you don't want to participate in the museum thing, you want to do your own thing or do nothing at all. But if you want to participate, I think one of the things that's really kept so many people from participating is gatekeeping. It's the cultural gatekeeping, it's the professionalization, gatekeeping. And there is a place for laypersons. There is room for people who don't know anything about art, just like there's room for people who know everything. So Snapshot Project in many ways is one of the responses to the triennial. It is about welcoming people in and laying our cards down on the table and saying, this is what we do. And where do you want to plug in?
Well, thank you so much for your integrity and honestness and vulnerability and sharing that. I feel like it's so key. And I love so many things that you said. And I'll say, when I worked at MMoCA, there was a day that some artwork, and this was not the same incident, some artwork was damaged. That was a very unhappy boss and a very unhappy few weeks. It was under someone's watch, who knows whose watch, but it happened. And it sounds like, as you said, there were some mistakes made on the museum's part, and museum staffers are human. I was one of them. I know people who are working there. It was really hard. And I know people would a lot of remorse all around, and appreciate you saying it like it is, that there were mistakes made. So this new exhibit is really exciting for the reasons you shared, and that it is a moment to bring life back to MMoCA. I mean, it's been there, but I think in my own knowledge, as you said, museums across the board, art museums and other museums, can have like a stuffy connotation. Yeah. Like maybe it's for the upper class, or it's not a place for me. And this is really in direct contrast to that. This is bringing it to the public, bringing the process to the public. And I'm really excited for this evolution.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I think what's so fascinating is, we're roughly halfway between these sort of two major institutions of the state, the university and the Capitol. And I kind of think in the middle is where we can come into a kind of cultural agora or a third space where we can, and that's what's great about contemporary art is like you're making sense of the here and now. And doing that is messy. And so when you're a free museum on Madison State Street and your values are being open to everybody, you're going to get people who come in and want to be malactors. And, I will say even the best museums in the world have had people come in with paint and soup and splatter things. So it's not just MMoCA. There's always this balancing act between being open and welcoming and taking care of what you've got. And I think the thing I hear so much from people who are so frequently from people who are not frequent museum visitors is like, why is the guard following me around? And They
Because we
think
don't
it's
want
because
you to draw on the art.
Exactly. Right. But, you don't know that. You think we're targeting you. And what you don't know is that like on every given day, we have 7 or 8 people that try touching something. And it's our job to take care of what this artist has entrusted us with. So it's a tough balancing act, but I think the error always has to be, from my perspective, on accepting an increased risk so that people can feel comfortable and welcome. It shouldn't feel stuffy. It is not for the upper class only. I don't even know what the upper class is. What does that even mean? They're for everybody, and everybody should feel welcome. And museums are like books. They're incredibly democratic things that can mean hold so much meaning in different ways for different people. And that's what I love about them. And so I think leading with a balance of heart and mind is the way to be successful. And so again, I think this project, I'm really looking forward to spending time in the galleries and being able to talk to visitors about what they're looking at.
We love it. It's a new chapter for you. You are coming home, MMoCA's new director. You are coming home here. So thank you for returning. And before I let you go, do you have any other changes or initiatives planned for the museum in the future you want to shout out?
Yeah, for sure. I would absolutely, if you come to see the snapshots, I would definitely recommend seeing a small collection exhibition of Richard Hunt's work. He was a Black American sculptor from Chicago, and he also made incredible prints. And those prints will be on view in the Henry Street Gallery, as well as 2 sculptures. One of the sculptures has something called bronze disease. And this is another sort of effort to be transparent. Most museums would never show something that has a conservation challenge, but we want people to understand the science of taking care of artworks. And bronze disease is something that's very hard to prevent and very hard to deal with. And over the next year, we'll be conserving the object and dealing with this corrosion that it has. That is probably an expression of something we call inherent vice, or something in the material that wasn't quite right when it was made. And we'll explain to people what it is and how it works and what it means to deal with it. And then coming up is the triennial. We have a triennial this time next year. Next summer, the triennial will go up. And I'm very excited to welcome people back. It'll be a full survey of Wisconsin art. And I'm excited about the possibility in that and to help people get a sense of just the breadth and exciting wonder of what's happening and what's being made in this state.
Heck yeah. MMoCA director, thank you for giving us your time, and thank you for the honest and lovely conversation. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
That's Paul Baker Prindle, the new Gabriele Haberland director of the Madison Museum of Contemporary Art. Their new exhibit, Snapshots, will run all this month of September, every Thursday and Friday in the main galleries from noon to 6 p.m. If you want to learn more, head to our show notes for a link. That's all for today, here on CityCast Madison. I'm Bianca Martin. If you enjoyed the show, why not share this episode with your artsy friend? We'll be back tomorrow morning with more stories from around the city. Until then, take good care.